My beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, let me give you guys my thoughts ahead of this really important match against Betis tomorrow that, of course, I'll be attending, and I'll try to put up some cool shorts from the stadium, the anthem, and all that stuff. But I am, concerned about this match, okay? Now, look, Betis is coming to play without Isco, one of their more important players, although I think by now they've kind of gotten used to playing without him. It's been a few matches now. We are playing without Kylian, who is obviously our main source of goals. This squad has proven time and again that just because you have better players doesn't mean that you're going to play better football. And we have been reminded of this all season long. I think this is going to be a difficult match. Pellegrini has held his own in the Bernabeu quite well. Betis has only lost 2 matches in the Bernabeu since the 16-17 season. They've been performing pretty well, pretty competitively at the Bernabeu, and we need to be concerned. I'm going to give you guys the 7 things about our play that worry me going into this match. I'm also going to give you guys the 3 players that I think are on the whistle watch list. This should be a new segment, the whistle watch list of the Bernabeu, because the Bernabeu is pissed off, and we have our sights set on a few players that need to be very careful. If you lose more than 2 balls tomorrow, or you don't hustle and play 110%, you're going to hear it. So I'll mention that as well. But let me give you guys my thoughts ahead of what I think will be a really tricky match, and we'll look at possible lineups, etc. Thanks for joining me as always. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the match tomorrow. And it's impossible to discuss this match without having to discuss, once again, from a broader perspective, the issue of injuries in this squad. It is completely and totally out of control. We've had 28 different injuries in like the last 12 months, something absolutely insane. And we do have a lot of questions to ask in this regard. I mean, we know that Pintus was pushed aside. Pintus was the head of sort of the physical preparation team for a few years, and under Ancelotti, etc. He was sort of bumped to the side. He's still part of Real Madrid, but doesn't have that specific role. And I don't know if we need to bring him back, because the injury situation seems to be getting worse, not better. I don't know exactly what is going on. But in terms of Kylian's situation, so the club says that he had an ongoing problem with a knee sprain. So he sprained his knee, kind of twisted it a little bit. It's very common with ankles. It can also happen to knees. And that this was kind of an ongoing thing. Well, if this was an ongoing thing, what the hell was Kylian doing playing against Talavera? And admittedly, maybe we would have lost the match without his goals. I don't know. But the point is, why are you starting a player against Talavera that you know has a sore knee and has some problem with his knee? I mean, I don't understand. Since when do personal trophies and personal little benchmarks and accomplishments, since when do those take precedent over the collective and the good of the team? I don't understand. It baffles me. Kylian had been playing too many minutes. I had discussed this in previous videos that it worried me how many minutes he was playing, and sooner or later you're gonna pay the price. Look, I think this is going to be a difficult match. Betis, like I say, has performed well in the last few years visiting the Bernabeu. We are playing very poor football, and I'm going to tell you the sort of 7 things about our play going into this match that really have me concerned. Okay, number 1. This is a team that really struggles to score. Okay, we do create chances, but we're incredibly inefficient in the final third. The only player that was able to put the ball in the back of the net with any consistency was Kylian, but he's not going to be available. I'm very concerned about how difficult it is for this team to score goals. It doesn't make any sense. If you look at the quality that we have in terms of players on paper, it makes 0 sense. But I'm very worried about where the hell the goals are going to come from a team that is very inefficient in the final third. Okay, number 2, a second concern I have is that this is a team that loses focus very quickly and very easily. Okay, we seem to drop our shoulders when we score first, and we seem to drop our shoulders when we get scored against. So this is a team that at the slightest little issue seems to lose intensity, either because we think the game is under control because we scored one goal, and we've done this more than once this season, or the other team scores and then we get really rattled and we look like deer in headlights and we have no idea how to react. So this is a team that loses concentration very, very easily, and that really, really worries me. Number 3, and this is a recurring theme throughout the history of Real Madrid, and it's very pronounced lately, and that is that this is a team that's very vulnerable in set pieces and very vulnerable in the air. Okay, this is a major problem in our defending. It's kind of always been a weakness historically, but I think it's particularly pronounced now. And there's absolutely no excuse for this. We have tall central defenders. We have tall pivots. There's no reason in the world why this should be the case. I don't understand why it's happening, but we look very vulnerable in set pieces and aerial play. That's something that concerns me a lot. Number 4, this is a team that really struggles to recover the ball, but has a very easy time losing it. Our ability to recover the ball, it's just not great this year. It seems like we do a lot of running, but it's not coordinated. So even though our players run a lot, we don't seem to put the right type of pressure on the ball that causes the other team to cough it up. So it's a lot of running, like, chickens with their heads cut off, but not a lot of sort of sensible collective press. So this is a team that struggles to recover the ball. It takes a huge amount of physical effort for us to recover the ball. And then when we're in possession, it doesn't take a lot of pressure for us to cough it up. This has been a recurring theme all year, and something that really worries me. Okay, number 5. This is a team that is, because of injuries and because of tactical decisions, both of these things have combined to create a constant sort of experiment. I feel like every match we're doing something different. Every match we're experimenting with something. Players playing in different positions, or it was a 4-3-3, then a 4-4-2. Now we're back to a 4-3-3. This is a team that feels like it's constantly experimenting, partly due to injuries. We miss a lot of players, and then we have to kind of reinvent how we play because we need to bring other players off the bench. That's part of the reason, and I'll give you that much. But it's also tactical, because there are plenty of times where we have players available, but Xabi just chooses to use a different style. He's played Arda as a 10 for a few matches, only to push him back to an 8. He plays Jude as an 8, only to then push him up as a 10. I think that the players get a little bit confused. Again, we do the 4-4-2 sometimes and the 4-3-3. I think there's no consistency in our play, and this is why there's no sort of automatisms or reflexive play that I can see. That was point number 6, actually, the fact that this team does not have any kind of automatic, systematic play because of all the changes that I mentioned. Number 7, another very obvious weakness in our play is that we don't have a natural playmaker in the middle of the pitch. We don't have the one player that controls the tempo of the match, that controls the circulation of the ball, that controls the distribution of the ball, the sort of Toni Kroos type role and Luka Modric sometimes, but we're missing the kind of the real playmaker, and it's kind of a weird thing to say, because when you have a player like Jude and you have a player like Arda, it seems like I shouldn't have to say this, but yet, despite those two players, and they're both very, very good players, I mean, they're both technically very gifted players, but even with those players, it doesn't feel to me like we have a midfielder that dominates the middle of the pitch, that completely controls the tempo of the play. It just doesn't feel that way. And maybe it has something to do with all the swapping back and forth of Arda and Jude. I don't know, but it's something that is concerning, and a recurring theme is we're missing the one playmaker in the middle of the pitch through which our play sort of begins and develops. That's just something that we're lacking desperately. In terms of lineups, look, I'll tell you guys what I think the most probable lineup will be. Huijsen didn't train yesterday. I don't know how serious it is, but I'm going to assume that he's going to be okay. Now, I think that because we're playing at home and we played the last few matches as a 4-3-3 and we need to find goals from somewhere, I think that he probably will play a 4-3-3. So the more likely lineup, I think, will be Courtois in goal. I think Fede will play right back. I don't think he's going to experiment with Asensio in that position anymore. I think Fede will be right back. I think Huijsen and Rudiger will be center backs. Now, the Huijsen injury, if it's anything serious, obviously we'll see Asensio, but I think it was more a precaution than anything else. I'm expecting Huijsen to be available. So Huijsen and Rudiger as center backs, Carreras on the left. Then in the middle of the pitch, three, I think it'll be a sort of 4-3-3, and you'll have Tchouaméni, Arda, and Jude. And then further up front, Vini, Gonzalo, and Rodrigo. This is probably, I don't know, I would give this maybe a sort of 70% probability. That's kind of my educated guess. We do need goals. They have to come from somewhere, and Kylian is not available. So I think he's going to want to throw a lot of bodies up front. Now, if you do play this 4-3-3, it does require your forwards to do extra work. So if you're going to have one fewer bodies in the middle of the pitch, it's going to be very important for your forwards to come back, to backtrack, and to help press the ball and help in recovery and help slow down Betis' transition play. So it does, when you do play the 4-3-3, it does require the forwards to engage a lot more with the middle of the pitch, especially in defensive duties. Now, it is possible that he'll come out with a 4-4-2. Now, this would be a much more cautious thing to do. I think this would be the more defensive type of move, and that would look like this. It would look like Courtois. You'd have the same defense: Fede, Huijsen, Rudiger, Carreras, and then in the middle of the pitch, you'd have a sort of Tchouaméni as a kind of double pivot, a lot of muscle. Both of these players have the physicality that you need for that position. You would have Tchouaméni and Camavinga, and then Arda and Jude a little bit further up front in more sort of creative roles, and then just have Vini and Rodrigo on the wings, and have either Arda or Jude come up that middle channel and play as a kind of false nine, whoever's playing that 10 position. And again, he's played Arda in that 10 position. He's played Jude in that 10 position. I don't know what he'll decide to do, but whoever does play, because I would expect this to be a sort of diamond, and if you do have a number 10 in that diamond formation, you expect him to get into the box a lot and act as a sort of false nine as we move lines forward in attack. So that's kind of, those are the two sort of options that I think in terms of lineup. I think if we think about the Super Cup match against Atletico de Madrid, I think there you're definitely going to see a 4-4-2 and a much more muscular formation with a lot more muscle in the middle of the pitch, because that's what Atletico de Madrid demands, because they are a very physical, aggressive team. They run a lot. They press like crazy. They're very direct when they recover the ball. It's a team that you really can use an extra man in the middle of the pitch to slow them down and to help keep possession. So I do think that we'll see a 4-4-2 against Atletico de Madrid in the Super Cup. But tomorrow, I think the more likely formation will probably be the 4-3-3. Now, okay, look, in terms of the atmosphere of the Bernabeu, I can tell you, because Madridismo is so pissed off and the tension level is so high, and we know that Xavi's days are numbered, and we know that radical changes are right around the corner because none of us are happy with what we see. The Bernabeu is at the edge of their seat, and they're absolutely chomping at the bit. They're waiting for any excuse to put the pressure on. So I think tomorrow's going to be a very uncomfortable match for the players. I know they're going to be under tremendous scrutiny for the entire 90 minutes. The players that are on sort of, I'm going to call this whistle standby, or, like on the whistle warning list. Number one, Vini. Vini needs to be very careful. Any kind of antics or any drama or any nonsense, and he's going to hear it from the Bernabeu. It was about 50-50 last time in terms of applause and people whistling when he was substituted. I get the feeling that he's really in the eye of the storm here. If Vini loses too many balls, doesn't backtrack or anything of the sort, I think Vini is going to hear it. He needs to be careful. The second player on the whistle watch list, I think, is Rodrigo. Rodrigo, has sort of been marginally better the last 2-3 matches, but he's coming off a year and a half of crap. So Rodrigo is also in the firing line, and I think he needs to be very careful, because if he doesn't participate and run and help defend and create and take people on one-on-one and make something happen, Rodrigo is likely to hear it. The third player on this list, and you guys are going to be a little bit surprised about this, and I'm a little bit surprised as well, but I even think Jude has to be a little bit careful. Jude has come under a lot of scrutiny lately. He's a player that I love you guys. I love him because of his technical attributes. I think he's an extraordinary player. But it is true that he just hasn't been as efficient, especially going forward. We don't see as much of him in the creative part, in the offensive part of our play, in terms of scoring, getting into the box, and just linking up with the forwards. He hasn't been great, and he's been a little bit absent in some matches. Although he works incredibly hard defensively, probably the player, him and Fede, that run the most every single match. And Jude gives 110%. He spends the entire match chasing the ball, slide tackling people. I mean, it's hard to watch, but he does an enormous amount of dirty work, but he's been very absent in the creative part of our play, and that's something that people are very aware of. And I think Jude, believe it or not, Jude also needs to be a little bit careful, because I have heard criticisms of him from different sources, and I do think he's one of the players that's kind of slightly in the line of fire, not as much as Vinier Rodrigo, but slightly in the line of fire. So those are the players that need to run a lot. They need to make sure they don't lose more than 2 or 3 balls, or it could be an extremely long night for them. But anyway, that's my view on the Betis match. I think it's going to be very tricky. We have every reason in the world to be concerned, every reason in the world to think that this will be a difficult match, and I certainly don't expect it to be easy. Anyway, like I say, I'll be at the Bernabeu tomorrow. I'll give you guys some cool shorts, walking into the stadium, to my seats, and the sort of anthem at the beginning, and anything that I think might be cool to share with you guys. So I'll be sure to do that tomorrow. And of course, I'll give you guys my post-match analysis as well. And we'll do some shorts with my uncle and get his thoughts ahead of the match as well. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Love you guys. Let's hope we can pull this off. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, a la Madrid.